You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away. And the cameraman's allowed to sing too. The other night, dear, as I lay sleeping, I dreamt I held you in my arms. When I awoke, dear, I was mistaken. So I hung my head and I cried. What'd I cry? You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away. I'll always love you and make you happy if you would only do the same. But if you leave me for another, you'll regret it all the same. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away. I had a grandchild who wrote a new verse to this song. It wasn't this one. This is my grandchild Dimitri. He's from over in Middleton, and a brilliant young man, dancer, singer, mathematician. Are you still top 2% in math? 2 grade levels above his age. Now there you go. You need something figured out. I was thinking about U.S. Treasurer down the road for him. He'd get that straightened out for us. Anyway, the other grandson wrote, the other night, dear, as I lay sleeping, dreamt that I was kissing you so hard. When I awoke, dear, I was mistaken. I was kissing our Saint Bernard. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away. Oh, please don't take my sunshine away. I've been thinking a lot about my heroes lately, the people that I took lessons from, and what things they shared with me, and how their thoughts and their teachings from old times translate to our times now. And on my way here, I passed the exit for St. Mary's Care Center, and I played there every month for 37 years until this pandemic came down. And I called them today, and they said, yes, you can come visit again. I've got a couple friends there that I've known for a long time. I'm going to stop and visit them. And it reminded me of one of the things that I used to do, and still back at doing, is playing at food pantries and shelters and things. And I was up there at St. Mary's on a Saturday, and there's this little group of little old ladies that are in their 90s with attitudes. But if you live to be that long, you're entitled to whatever attitude you develop, you know. And there's one her name is Artist, and she's like the leader of the group. And she came in and she said, so tell me, what did you do last night? Did you go out and go drinking and stuff? I said, no, ma'am, I don't do that anymore. She said, well, what did you do? I said, well, I was over at a place called the River Food Pantry, and we were serving people dinners. And she said, well, how many people did you serve? I said, last night we served 352 people. She said, where did you get the food? I said, well, a lot of people are generous, and if we get $1, we can get $10 worth of meals on the table for folks. Farmers donate to us, and it's a generosity of heart, a statement of the bounty that exists in this country when we can do that. And that was the end of the conversation. I sang for him for a while, and then this was in August, and then about just before Thanksgiving, I was back at the River Pantry because my daughter did photo shoots of families there, along with 13 other photographers she got together so that everybody could get a family portrait. From one guy and his cat up to an Asian family, had 27 people in it. And right in the middle were the greats, the grandparents, and they were dressed in traditional, whatever country it was, I don't know, but they were dressed in traditional. And as you spanned out across the array of people, until you come over here, there was a kid about 10, had spiked hair, holes in his jeans, and things hanging from his ears. And so you got to see the Amerification of this Asian family. And so I'm busy taking in the scenes, and I turn out of the corner of my eye, I see the St. Mary's bus pull in. And out come them gals, and there's artists at the lead with her walker up and into the building. And she came over and she said, who's in charge around here? I said, well, that'd be Jenny. She's standing over there. And they disappeared, and they formed a circle around her. And then Jenny, who's pretty stressed a lot of times trying to feed that many people and make everything work right, she looked at them and started to smile. Not a little smile, a great big smile. And so after they left, I went over and I said, Jenny, what was all that about? And she said, those ladies brought me a check for $400. Well, as it would be, the next day I was back at St. Mary's, and there's the girls, and we got to talking, and I said, well, where'd you get that money? And they said, well, we play bingo every Wednesday. And we would circle anybody who won a bingo, because you get a quarter. And we'd guilt trip them. It's a Catholic hospital. We'd guilt trip them into giving up the money. And that got me thinking. If about 6, 7, 90-year-old ladies with attitudes can put $400 on the table at the River Pantry, 1 quarter at a time, I don't want to hear anything about the government saying we can't afford it. It's just not right. We have so much. At least some people have so much. So this song always makes me think of that. And you could help me with it. You got a part, and it goes like this. Why, there's honey in the rock for all God's children. Honey in the rock, honey in the rock, honey in the rock for all God's children. Feed every child of God. And then there's a reprise that says, feed every child of God. And so you can sing with me now. If you're not inclined to feel publicly embarrassed singing out loud in company, just move your lips. We'll figure you're with us, and everything will just go smoothly at that point. So here we go. Why, there's honey in the rock for all God's children. Honey in the rock, honey in the rock, honey in the rock for all God's children. Feed every child of God. Why, if religion was a thing that your money could buy, feed every child of God. Oh, the rich would live and the poor would die. Feed every child of God. I thank the Lord it isn't so. Feed every child of God. Both the rich and the poor together must go to feed every child of God. Why, there's honey in the rock for all God's children. Honey in the rock, honey in the rock, honey in the rock for all God's children. Feed every child of God. Some say Peter and some say Paul. Feed every child of God. But ain't but one God made us all. Feed every child of God. So I'll climb, I'll never stop to feed every child of God. And I'll climb till I reach that mountain top to feed every child of God. Why, there's honey in the rock for all God's children. Honey in the rock, honey in the rock. Oh, there's honey in the rock for all God's children. Feed every child of God. Why, the tallest tree in paradise. Feed every child of God. And you got a right to that tree of life. Feed every child of God. Honey in the rock for all God's children. Honey in the rock, honey in the rock, honey in the rock for all God's children. Feed every child of God. Feed every child of God. Well, this year started out kind of sad for me. My dearest friend of 65 years passed away New Year's Day about 3:30 in the morning. And I have an unusual past like most of us do. My father came back from World War II and finished his high school education and then went to college in California and became an engineer. And his first job was designing the first hard drive. No tape, no punch cards. And it was 5.5 feet tall and 2.5 feet in diameter. And it stored an entire kilobyte. And so now I've got 400 gigabytes in my camera and 168 in my phone the size of my pinky, you know. So things progress as we go along. But because of that, and because of all the jobs he had, by the time I was 18 and graduated from high school, I'd had 28 homes, all with the same parents who were together for 56 years. And so that had me all over the place. And of course, when you're in and out of 2-3 schools a year, you don't develop much of a friend base, and I miss out on some educational things. And so I checked in at 12 years old to Utica, New York, and went to school on my birthday. And we were writing a letter to this fella, and he was 12 years old, and he was in the hospital at Duke University having surgery for spinal bifida. And had to write this letter. I didn't know the kid, so I just thought, well, if I was in the hospital, what would I want somebody to say to me? And I kind of wrote that down. Told him I hope we got to meet each other when we were over, when he was back. And he came looking for me as soon as he came back from the hospital late that August, because apparently, out of all the kids he'd grown up with, I was the only one who said anything kind and sensible to him. And we became fast friends, and for the next 6.5 years, you couldn't tell the difference between us. We were everywhere together. We got in trouble together, took my father's car for a ride and got stopped, and all kinds of things. But it was the way I grew up. And we remained friends over the years. And he moved to a place called Blue Mountain Lake in the Adirondack Mountains and became an EMT. And noticed that because of the road to Albany, it was about a 90-mile run down the mountain in the wintertime, they were losing a lot of the people who had heart attacks or whatever because they didn't have advance. They had a 1969 Cadillac ambulance. So he decided that wasn't okay, and he would stand at the one stop sign in Blue Mountain Lake, a town of 150,000. In the summer, when 150,000 in the summertime would go through, and they'd come to the stop sign, he'd say, you know, if you had a serious medical condition, I probably couldn't save you. We're buying an ambulance. Would you help us? This is 48 years ago, and that summer he raised $40,000 standing on the corner, bought the town an ambulance, and then got training for the 5 EMTs with the advanced medical care, and we're saving a lot of lives and stuff. So not only was my friend, he's one of those heroes, you know, and everybody thinks, well, you met Rosa Parks, that's a hero. No, there's so many heroes. People that help people learn how to grow things, those are heroes. People who stand up for justice, those are heroes. Mothers are heroes, you know. You just got to get to know them. So Jimmy passed, and well, that thing sounded pretty goofy there. Well, I guess a part of me will always be 14, playing with my best friend down in that old ravine. We weren't any different, why we did what all kids do. And Jim, sometimes it was special spending that time with you. But our time passed so quickly, we went our separate ways, living out our lives like actors in a play. I've often thought about you, wondering where you might be, always knowing somehow you held the best of me. And I'm glad to see you living life with a smile upon your face. Warms my heart to sit with you a while. And I know that I will find you where the mountains touch the sky, happy with a dream in your eyes. I went back to the old hometown not so long ago. So many things had changed and the people I didn't know. Not sure why I went there or now what I thought I'd find. Just sort of walking through the corners of my mind. And I'm glad to find you living life with a smile upon your face. Warms my heart to sit with you a while. And I know that I will find you where the mountains touch the sky, living with that dream that's in your eye. So now when grown-up life gets me down, I close my eyes and dream back to that time, oh, when we were both 14. Always seems to ease my mind and brighten up my day, knowing how we run and play, we could just run and play. Oh, and I'm glad to see you living life with a smile upon your face. Warms my heart to sit with you a while. And I know that I will find you where the mountains touch the sky, just living with the dream that's in your eye. One day I was sitting at home and I got a letter. And the letter came from a guy named Roscoe, well, his wife's name too, Roscoe and Evelyn Churchill. And the letter read, they're trying to put a mine here on the Flambeau River and we think it's dangerous, but we don't have any money at all. Could you send us 50 cents or $1 so we can buy more stamps and spread the word? Well, that got me to want to go meet this guy, and at one point I was 32, Roscoe was about 78, and I found his farm up there in Ladysmith, and we became vast friends. He kind of led us, sort of a spiritual counseling kind of guy who'd been down the road. He'd been a teacher and a farmer, raised horses, was on the county board, and was very vocal about not having the Kennecott mine up there. So as I got to know him, I'd stop by and visit him when I was traveling around. And one day we were standing at the fence looking out at his horses. And he had an unusual breed. He had a cross between a Belgian and an Appaloosa. That's a big, sure-footed horse. And he called them leopards. He said, you know, if you want a horse, those horses could carry a man of your stature. I was a little bit bigger at the time. And we're sitting there, and he said, but if you take anything away from knowing me, let it be this. Life is delicious. Take a big bite out of it every day. This sort of came around about things. And when Roscoe passed away, he was in his 90s. I got to be there just before he left, and we sat and we sang. He played some harmonica, and after he was gone, his nurse found 3 or 4 bushels of his apples. He was known for his apples. She passed them all to all the farm ladies around who all made their best apple pie recipes. And for Roscoe's memorial, we ate the last of his apples, and knowing how much he hated to see food going to waste, I know he was smiling down at us. And out of that came this song about traveling and meeting people and finding the heroes around and taking that big bite every day. Well, the sun comes up in the morning, it's time to start my day. Grab a cup of coffee, I'm on my way. There's another town to visit and a few more songs to sing, and take a little time to be thankful for the good things each day brings. Oh, and life is delicious, take a big bite every day, and find your joy in your work and in your play. Oh, life is delicious like Roscoe's apple pies, best shared with friends, put a little ice cream on the side. Well, old Roscoe, he told me, son, you got one life to live. Not about what you got, but what you'll give. So live each day now as if it were your last. Keep your eye upon the present and not upon the past. Oh yes, and life is delicious, take a big bite every day, and find your joy in your work and in your play. Oh, and life is delicious like Roscoe's apple pies, best shared with friends. I put a little ice cream on the side. Well, now the sun is setting, why it's time to take my rest. Looking back upon my life, I know that I've been blessed with loving smiles of strangers I've met out on my quest. Their folks always lend a helping hand and always give their best. Oh, and life is delicious, take a big bite every day, and find your joy in your work and in your play. Oh, and life is delicious like old Roscoe's apple pies, the best shared with friends. Put a little ice cream on the side. Put a little ice cream on the side. Quite a few years ago, another one of the people I have a deep respect for is a fellow named Larry Long. And Larry, currently a resident of Wisconsin now. He lives over in the Driftless area with Jack, his wife. And the two of them have committed their lives to social justice. Jack's a defense attorney and done a lot of work for helping people that are in trouble for things like refusing to let bulldozers destroy their watersheds. And Larry's been singing about that and about the sacredness of place and getting the stories from the elders and the kids and writing songs, and is a Kennedy Fellow and quite an amazing young man. He back 40 years ago, there was a tractor march to Washington, D.C. I don't know if any of you know of that. Started with a little Ford N up there in Minnesota, and by the time they got to Washington, they had some of the big and long line of tractors, and happened when Washington, D.C. got hit with the biggest snowstorm in its history. And nobody was moving except the farmers. They were all out there taking people to the hospital, taking oxygen to people, in those big tractors. And they did get an audience with the president after that about the problems they were having on the farm. But Larry, after that, he got involved in the Great Mississippi River Revival, starting up there at Lake Itasca, and they came in canoes down to Minneapolis, and they traded them in for little Hyperlon boats. And on his way down the river, he wrote this song, and it's one that I've enjoyed playing for a long time. You can sing it with me. It goes like this. Along the blue highway, my friend, along the blue highway is to return now, back again along the blue highway. She's a source of life, a gift of love, and to the sea she must run. Why, to return now from above, along the blue highway, along the blue highway, along the blue highway, my friend, along the blue highway. Why, to return now, back again along the blue highway. Shadows dance on a rose, wandering down this winding road. To return now, just going home, along the blue highway, along the blue highway, my friend, along the blue highway. Why, to return now, back again along the blue highway. Ides of March rushing down, why, they're flooding out River Town. Life and death move round and round along the blue highway, along the blue highway, my friend, along the blue highway. Yes, to return now, back again along the blue highway. We pretty much consider that water is life. It's the essence of everything. We're all full of it. We need it. And we've been singing this song up and down the rivers, and the Menominee River is now in trouble. They're trying to put a big mine up there, 10-foot football fields long and about 800 feet deep, 50 feet from the river. And why should that concern me, somebody said. I said, well, you live here on the shores of Lake Michigan. Where do you think that water comes from 40 miles north of you? It comes right down that river. And the company that they're fighting right now isn't even a mining company. It's a mining acquisition company getting all the permits to turn it over to somebody who may or may not know what they're doing, you know, so it's problematic. Dee, would you do me a favor and put that other PA system back in the car? Thank you. Black and white, red and yellow, while there's blue above and green below. All are one now within her flow, along the blue highway, along the blue highway, my friend, along the blue highway. Yes, to return now, back again along the blue highway. Yes, to return back again along the blue highway. Oh, by the way, Dee,